sound of his voice, and seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken for my regard. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, and through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me. Far be it from me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well. It is well. So let go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and winds still know his name. So let go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and winds still know his name. And it is well with my soul. And it is well with my soul. And it is well with my soul. And it is well, it is well with my soul. And it is well, it is well with my soul. And it is well, it is well with my soul.
In some ways, the Lenten season is a season of lament. As Alistair Begg writes in the materials we have been basing our Lenten series on, Lent is a season of sorrow. More than usual, we are aware of the frail and fallen condition of our world, and certainly in our own body and soul. Our reflection during the season stirs a deep sense that something is wrong, something greater than just our individual sin. It is the pervasive effects of sin: distraction, deception, discord, despair, disaster, death. These are deep words. Following the journey of Jesus to the cross forces us to face the reality that you and I are the very reason Jesus took that journey. Yet Lent is not about doubling down on our shame or wallowing in our guilt. Lent is about employing spiritual discipline to deepen our relationship with a living Savior who brings peace to our discord, joy to our despair, and has brought us from death to life everlasting. It's about persisting in our faith despite the difficulties. It's about boldly declaring, "It is well with my soul," even when we might, quite frankly, be struggling. You might know the story behind that hymn, "It is Well with My Soul." Horatio Spafford wrote the hymn after two traumatic events in his life. The first was the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, which ruined him financially. Just a couple of years later, Spafford and his family was set to travel to England, but he was detained in the US, so he sent his family ahead of him. While crossing the Atlantic Ocean, the ship on which his wife and 4 daughters was sailing sank, and all 4 of his daughters died. Spafford's wife, Anna, survived and sent him the now infamous telegram, "Saved alone." Shortly afterwards, as Spafford was traveling to meet his grieving wife, he was inspired to write the words, "It is well with my soul," as his ship passed near where his daughters had died. You know, a lot of people don't understand that kind of thinking. When Jesus came to his hometown of Nazareth, Mark 6 tells us the many listeners were astonished at what he was saying. But it wasn't in a good way. The Greek word Mark uses here can also mean the words of Jesus were overwhelming to the people who were listening, or struck panic in the crowd. In other words, they were gobsmacked by the things Jesus was saying. They simply did not understand, or closer to the point, they probably did not want to understand. Luke tells a similar story in Luke chapter 4, where it appears that the people of Nazareth were not looking for teaching, but for miracles. This makes sense in Mark's telling as well, since in the passage which directly precedes this passage, Jesus raises a 12-year-old girl from the dead. One of the basic misunderstandings that we as believers must persist through is that God doesn't answer every one of our prayers with a yes, and that serving a miracle working God does not make God into a miracle working machine who magically grants our every wish and whim. For every story of a miracle, there are 10 stories of not miracles. When God did not choose to raise the little girl from the dead, or when God did not cure the cancer, or when, despite the many good prayers of righteous people, the floodwaters raged and the fires burned, and evil men came into power. Often we live in a world that seems frighteningly unfair, and we do not have good answers. But we do serve a good God. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." The people of Nazareth were so blinded, searching for a miracle, that they missed the God in Jesus Christ who was standing right there in their midst. One of the most important lessons we can learn as believers is not that we will be delivered from every heartache and hurt, but that Jesus came to earth and lived as a man to journey with us in our heartache. The message paraphrase of Hebrews 2, 16 through 18 explains it was for people like us, like you and me, children of Abraham. That's why he had to enter into every detail of human life. Then, when he came before God as a high priest to get rid of people's sins, he would have already experienced it himself, all of the pain, all of the testing, and would be able to help and help where it was needed most. If today you're suffering through a trial of life, I cannot guarantee you a miracle, but I can assure you that God is there with you. That God was there before whatever you're experiencing. God is there right now, and God will be in the future, whatever that holds too. So when the people of Nazareth did not get what they wanted from Jesus, they began to hurl insults at him. Mark 6:3, "Is that not the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? And aren't those his sisters with us?" And they took offense at him. They accused him basically of being simple, an ordinary laborer, just a carpenter, who was literally part of the family down the block, someone who they all knew and someone who could not be all that special. Believers must also persist through cynicism and doubt. In Matthew 21:21, Jesus tells of the great power of rock solid belief. "Truly I say to you, if you have faith and do not doubt, you will not only do what is done to the fig tree, but even can say to this mountain, be taken up and cast into the sea, and it will happen. And James 1:6-8 says, "But he must ask in faith without doubting. For the one who doubts is like the surf of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For what person ought not to expect, for that person ought not to expect that he will receive anything from the Lord, being a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways." When we do not receive the miracles we request, and when it seems that our prayers are going unanswered, doubt and cynicism may start to creep into our lives. We find ourselves starting to wonder if God is really good or if he's really listening. And as a result, our spiritual lives lack power and direction. A few months ago, as many of you know, I moved from Grand Forks, North Dakota. And Grand Forks is located in the central plains of the US. The land is a lot like around here, where you can see for miles in any direction. And like the sandstorms we experience in the Middle East, when the wind whips up in Grand Forks, it picks up dirt from the fields and makes these great black clouds of dust. Now, the first time I flew into Grand Forks, it was on one of those windy days. And as the plane came close to the runway, it began to sway back and forth. The wind would take the plane this way, and the pilot would correct and it'd go this way. And then the plane would go this way, and the pilot would correct and it would go this way. And we just kept swaying back and forth as we went closer and closer to the runway. And frankly, everyone on the plane, I think, was getting just a little uneasy about the whole situation. Finally, the pilot reversed the engines, and the plane just dropped with a thud right onto the runway. And I think that was maybe one of the few times that everyone on the plane was clapping and cheering because we were all so frightened. And we were all very, very, very happy to be on the ground again. I think our lives can be a lot like that. You know, sometimes the winds of difficulty blow, and we're not sure whether to go this way or that. And we feel uncertain, and maybe even we get a little afraid, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen next. Doubt and cynicism is when we get into those situations and we begin to think that maybe it's all up to chance. Maybe no one's flying the plane. Maybe we'll all just crash. Or worse yet, maybe we begin to think that there's something we can do. Maybe if we all lean this way or we all lean that way, right? But the fact of the matter is the pilot is still in control of the plane. And no matter where we find ourselves in life, God is still in control. He has the power to set us down exactly where he wants us to be. And our job is just to strap ourselves in and to trust him to do what he's already said he would do. Now, modern readers might miss another insult that the people were hurling at Jesus that day in Nazareth. They called Jesus son of Mary. Foremost, to call a Jewish man the son of his mother, instead of tracing his lineage through his father, was an insult. But it was probably also an insinuation as to the circumstances around Jesus' birth. It's likely that there was gossip around Nazareth for years concerning the birth of Jesus, and Mary being, pregnant before she and Joseph were married. And so given the opportunity, the people of Nazareth simply could not resist the temptation to dredge up the past and mockingly share the town gossip again. Now, Mark doesn't record exactly how Jesus said his response. A prophet is not dishonored except in his own hometown and among his relatives and in his own household. Did Jesus yell it above the jeers of the crowd? Did he hang his head and mutter those words quietly? Was there a hardened heart somewhere in the crowd that was pierced by his words? We don't know. Mark leaves us with this haunting conclusion instead. And he, Jesus, could do no miracle there except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. And he was amazed at their unbelief. You ever wonder why people, congregations, entire churches are seemingly stuck on their journey, or worse yet, seem to be moving backwards. Perhaps the work of God in our midst is limited by our unbelief. If we fail to persist, if we give in to the temptations to question God's goodness and grace, or allow doubt and cynicism to invade our hearts and minds, we will eventually find that Jesus has simply departed from our midst. It's no coincidence that at the very next passage in Mark 6, verse 11, Jesus gives his disciples this advice: any place that does not receive you or listen to you as you go out from there, shake the dust off your soles of your feet as a testimony against them. He is telling his disciples to do the exact thing he has just done in his own hometown of Nazareth. So inasmuch as Lent is a journey, inasmuch as faith is a journey, my encouragement today is that you would keep going on that journey, that you would keep believing. Let's keep following, keep persisting every step of the way, so that you and I might grasp hold of all that Jesus has for us. His every blessing, his every miracle, every bit of his grace and his love. God bless you today, and may you keep going on this journey.